She laughed, not just a chuckle, not just a smirk, but a full-blown, eyes-rolling, belly-shaking laugh. Right there at the kitchen table, over cold coffee and unpaid bills, she laughed in my face when I said, "One day, I'm going to be rich." "You? Rich?" she said, wiping tears from her eyes like I was the punchline of a bad joke. "Come on, Mark, you can't even keep a job longer than 6 months." And just like that, something inside me broke. Or maybe it finally clicked. See, back then, I was broke in every sense, financially, emotionally, spiritually. I'd been laid off twice in 1 year, working nights at a gas station while trying to launch a small tech idea in our garage. We were living in her parents' old rental, eating frozen meals and arguing over electricity bills. She said she was tired of waiting for a man who talked big but delivered small. I was tired too, tired of never being enough, but her laugh. That laugh hit different. It wasn't just disbelief, it was disrespect. It was her saying, "You'll never make it without me." She didn't see the hours I spent coding while she watched Netflix. She didn't hear the rejections I swallowed like poison. Or the nights I stayed up researching funding opportunities while she scrolled through influencers on Instagram. And yet, even with all that pain in my chest, I still loved her. Or maybe I loved who I thought she was. Because what came next shattered everything. It started with a whisper, rumors from friends, late night texts she tried to hide, changes in routine. And then I saw the message. Just one line on her phone that lit my whole world on fire. "He'll never know." I knew, and I was done. After I saw that message, "He'll never know," I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe it was an inside joke, maybe it was about someone else, maybe I was being paranoid. But denial is just the brain's last line of defense before reality kicks you in the teeth. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay beside her, listening to the rhythm of her breathing, trying to pretend everything was fine, but my chest felt tight. My mind was racing, and my gut, it was screaming. Over the next few days, the little things started piling up. You don't notice them when you're in love. You explain them away, because it hurts too much to admit the truth. She started taking longer showers. She never used to lock the bathroom door. Now it was always bolted. Her phone, which used to be an afterthought, suddenly never left her hand. She even started sleeping with it under her pillow. And the biggest red flag, her smile. That smile used to be mine. I used to be the reason for it. But now, she'd stare at her phone, smirk quietly to herself, then look at me like I was a stranger. One night, I came home early from the gas station. She wasn't expecting me. The lights were dimmed. She was on the couch, whispering into her phone with a voice I hadn't heard in years, soft, flirty, alive. She jumped when she saw me. "Oh, hey. I thought you were working late." "Yeah," I said slowly. Shift got cut short. She fumbled to turn off her phone screen, but not before I saw the contact name. "Babe." I didn't say anything. I just stared. She gave me this look, part guilt, part challenge, like she dared me to ask, but I didn't. I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I started paying attention. Her work schedule suddenly became unpredictable. She had late meetings and last-minute errands that always left her coming home hours after dinner. Once, I found an unfamiliar jacket in the back seat of her car. She said it belonged to her coworker Jessica, some name I'd never heard before. I nodded. I smiled. But inside I was unraveling. I began keeping a notebook, dates, times, inconsistencies. I was building a case, not just for myself, but for the man I used to be, the man she made me feel ashamed of. If she was going to treat me like I was stupid, I was going to make damn sure I wasn't. One night, she came home late again. Lipstick smudged, smelling like whiskey and cologne. That wasn't mine. She didn't even bother pretending. "Rough day?" I asked. She scoffed. "You wouldn't understand." That sentence hit me harder than she knew. Because I did understand. I understood what it meant to be invisible in your own marriage. To watch the person you once shared everything with now treat you like background noise. Still, I didn't confront her. I wasn't ready. I needed more than just suspicion. I needed truth, the kind that didn't hide behind excuses, the kind that stripped the mask off a lie and left it gasping in the light. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. It was a Friday. She said she was going to a team dinner. I watched her leave, waited 10 minutes, then jumped in my car and trailed behind her. I kept my distance, hands trembling on the wheel, heart thudding in my throat. She didn't go to a restaurant. She didn't even head downtown. She drove to a residential neighborhood I didn't recognize. Pulled into a driveway, and then I saw him. Tall, clean-cut, wearing the kind of suit I'd never been able to afford. He greeted her at the door like he'd done it 100 times. Kissed her while I sat in my car, parked 2 houses down. gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. They disappeared inside, and I just sat there. The betrayal didn't feel like a sharp stab. It felt slow, like someone pressing a hot iron to my chest, burning me inch by inch. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was humiliated. I was the fool, the guy she laughed at when he dreamed big, the guy she pitied, mocked, and cheated on. But something shifted in me that night, sitting there in that dark car, watching my wife walk into another man's arms. I realized something. She had already given up on me. Now it was my turn to stop holding on to her. I didn't go home right away that night. I parked in a grocery store lot, a few blocks from that house, and just sat in the dark, staring at the dash. My heart felt like it had been ripped open, but I knew I couldn't act on emotion. Not now. She thought I was weak, that I'd crawl away and lick my wounds like I always had, but that was before. That night marked the death of the man who begged for love, and the birth of the man who would take everything back. I drove home with my mind spinning like a chessboard. I wasn't going to blow up. I wasn't going to scream, or cry, or demand she tell me the truth I already knew. No, I was going to document, prepare, and wait. Because she wasn't just unfaithful, was cruel. She mocked my ambition, disrespected my efforts, and now, she thought she could betray me without consequences. She was wrong. The first thing I did was clone her phone. I'd read about software online that lets you sync messages from a target device. All I needed was 5 minutes with her phone while it was unlocked. She always left it charging when she showered just long enough. I set up the sync and waited. By the next morning, her texts were coming to my laptop in real time, and what I saw, it wasn't just an affair, was a full-blown fantasy life. He's still working nights. I'm just killing time until the payout. I'm pushing him to sign the post-up. He's too dumb to fight it. I stopped breathing when I read that. The payout, that's when I remembered she'd recently brought up updating our post-nuptial agreement, said it was for tax purposes, a suggestion from her friend's lawyer husband. At the time, I was too tired to argue. Too trusting. I dug out the document. It was worse than I remembered. In short, it gave her rights to 60% of anything I earned after marriage, including future business profits, while absolving her of any debts. And here's the kicker, it was designed to take effect after 3 years of marriage. We were 2 months away. This wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated. Suddenly, all her fake support, her recent kindness. The night she cooked me dinner, just because it all made sense. She was trying to keep me steady until that contract locked in. Then she'd leave with most of what I was building. I felt sick, but I didn't confront her. I played along. I acted just naive enough to keep her comfortable. I started hugging her more, making small talk, even suggesting we go on a weekend trip, just the two of us. She smiled like she was winning. What she didn't know was that I had already reached out to a lawyer. An old college friend of mine, Eric, had gone into family law. We hadn't spoken in years, but when I told him I needed help and couldn't say much over the phone, he agreed to meet. I brought everything, the synced messages, the photos, a copy of the post-nup. He went pale. "Mark, this isn't just shady. This could border on fraud." He explained that if I could prove her intentions to manipulate the contract, I might have grounds to challenge it even before it took effect, but I needed more. He told me to keep documenting, and to act normal, so I did. Over the next few weeks, I became a ghost in my own life, watching, recording, pretending. She had no idea. She thought I was soft, distracted, still chasing my little startup dreams. What she didn't know was that the startup she mocked had just landed its first major investor. That's right. Behind the scenes, I'd been hustling, pitching, coding, through my shifts at the gas station. One of those rejections I'd eaten like broken glass had circled back. A seed I'd planted 6 months ago had bloomed. A VC firm out of Austin liked my platform. They offered a deal, $250,000 in funding for a minority stake. It wasn't a life-changing fortunette, but it was a door she thought I'd never open. I didn't tell her. I deposited the check into a new business account under an LLC she didn't know existed. I rerouted my emails. I set up a new workspace in a shared office downtown. Every step I took was a brick in the wall between me and her. And all the while, she kept texting him. He's still clueless. He thinks I believe in his little app. Soon, baby, we'll be out of here. With money, it was like watching a movie where you already know the ending, but the villain doesn't know you've seen the script. By the time I had enough evidence, I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt sharp, cold, even. The pain was still there, sure, but it had been repurposed, hardened, tempered like steel. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival, about proving to her, to myself, to everyone who ever doubted me that I wasn't the joke. I was the punchline she never saw coming. The morning I served her the papers, she was making pancakes. It was almost comical, like a scene from some twisted sitcom. She was humming to herself in the kitchen, flipping batter on the skillet, wearing the same robe she'd worn the night I proposed. If I hadn't known what I knew, I might have thought we were happy, but I did know, and I was done pretending. I walked in, calm, collected. My lawyer had timed everything perfectly. The papers were already filed. Accounts were secure. The investor deal was legally shielded. The synced messages, printed, backed up, and notarized. Every lie she told, every step she took to betray MIT was all documented. She looked up as I placed the envelope on the table between us. "What's this?" she asked, flipping the pancake with a casual flick of her wrist. "Read it." She blinked, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened the envelope. The color drained from her face as she scanned the pages. "You're divorcing me. I'm correcting a mistake." Her mouth opened and closed like she couldn't decide whether to be outraged or afraid. "Mark, what the hell is this about?" I walked over to the kitchen counter, picked up her phone which she'd left unlocked and held it up. "This," I said, tapping the screen, "is about Babe, about the 3 months of lies, about the post-nup scam, about how you laughed in my face when I said I'd make it, and how you planned to rob me when I did." Her eyes went wide. "You went through my phone." "I cloned it," she gasped. "I read everything, Julia, every message, every dirty joke, every time you called me pathetic while you laid in our bed with him, every time you promised him my future. You think I'm the fool?" Her voice rose, defensive now. "You invaded my privacy." "That's illegal what you did," I said, cutting her off. "Isn't just immoral, it's fraudulent. You tried to trap me into that contract to cash out on a business you never believed in. I have the evidence, the texts, the timing, the financial moves you planned this." She dropped the spatula. It hit the tile floor with a sharp clang. "Mark, wait, we can talk about this." "No," I said flatly. "We can't." She stepped closer. "You can't just throw away everything we've built." I laughed, quiet, bitter. "We didn't build anything. I built, you schemed." She stared at me, trying to read my face like she always had. But I didn't flinch. I didn't break. I was done bleeding for someone who never intended to be in the trenches with me. "You're overreacting," she said, voice shaky. "This doesn't have to get ugly." I leaned in, eyes locked on hers. "You already made it ugly." That was the last word I said before I turned and walked out. The legal firestorm that followed was brutal, but I was ready. Her lawyer tried to push the post-nup, but Eric eviscerated it in court. He brought up intent. He presented the texts. He showed the judge how she'd conspired to mislead me, how the contract wasn't about love or fairness, it was a trap, a setup. And the timing of everything, her sudden interest in the contract just months before the vesting clause kicked in, painted a crystal clear picture. My startup off the table, my accounts secured. She tried to claim spousal support based on the lifestyle we could have had, but the judge wasn't buying it, especially not after reading the texts where she mocked me, admitted she was just waiting for the money, and openly fantasized about a future with someone else. I'll never forget the look on her face the day we sat across from each other in court. Her once perfect posture slumped, her hands clenched in her lap, her eyes, those same eyes that used to sparkle when she said she believed in me, now red-rimmed, staring down at the floor. When the judge ruled against her alimony claim, she cried, right there in court, real gut-wrenching sobs, and for a moment, just a second, I felt sorry for her. But then, I remembered the night she laughed in my face, the night she whispered to him, "He's too dumb to see it coming." I wasn't dumb. I was in love. There's a difference. The court sided with me on every major point. The postnup was declared unenforceable. She left with nothing but her clothes, her car, and the hollow echo of a plan that fell apart. Meanwhile, I walked out with my business intact and my dignity restored. After the verdict, as I was walking to the elevator, she caught up with me. Her eyes were puffy, mascara smeared. "Mark, please, I didn't mean for it to go this far." I turned to her, quiet, calm. "You didn't mean to get caught," I said. "But you meant every word you said about me. You meant to leave. You meant to profit off my future." She reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back. "You laughed at me when I dreamed. Now you're crying because I didn't fail." The elevator dinged. I stepped in. And as the door slid shut, I left behind the last piece of the man she thought she broke. The aftermath came like a slow-moving wave, quiet, steady, and unstoppable. Word got out. Small towns love whispers, and ours turned my divorce into a symphony of gossip. Her friends, the ones who used to side-eye me at dinner parties and call me a dreamer, went silent. Some unfollowed her. Some posted cryptic little quotes about karma and choices. Turns out, betrayal has a way of echoing. Her new relationship, the one she risked everything for, didn't last long. Maybe it was the court records going public. Maybe it was the texts, now part of the official documentation, that made him rethink. Either way, a month after the hearing, he was gone. Blocked her, disappeared. Just like that, she moved into a one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. No more Instagram selfies in our kitchen. No more posts about the grind or married life goals. Just silence. As for me, I threw myself into the startup. My first round of funding gave me breathing room. But the fire inside me that came from her betrayal kept me grinding harder than ever. I hired a small team. I moved out of the rental and into a modest loft downtown. Nothing fancy, just mine, but closure. It's not always neat. Some nights I still thought about the early days, about the girl I met in college, who once said she'd stick by me no matter what. About Sunday mornings, burnt toast, dancing in the kitchen. The laughter that felt real before it turned into a weapon. I missed that version of her. Or maybe I missed the man I thought I was when I was with her, but slowly, those thoughts stopped hurting. I began to feel free, not just from her, but from the weight of needing someone to believe in me in order to believe in myself. She didn't break me. She just revealed who I really was when I stopped trying to prove myself to someone who never saw me clearly. The scars were still there. But they didn't bleed anymore. They reminded me that survival isn't about who walks with you during the easy times, it's about who stays when the lights go out, and whether you can find your own switch. 6 months later, my life didn't look anything like it used to, and that was the best part. The startup took off faster than I could have imagined. That initial investment led to a second round of funding, and within months, we were operating in 3 cities. My name started showing up in places it never had before: tech blogs, podcasts, even a local business feature, with the headline, "From Gas Station to CEO, the Man Who Wouldn't Quit." But the biggest change wasn't the money or the success, it was me. I wasn't the man she left behind in that dim kitchen. I wasn't the dreamer she pitied, or the husband she outgrew. I had become someone I didn't even know I had in me: focused, disciplined, grounded. My confidence wasn't tied to someone else's validation anymore. It came from scars, from silence, from late nights no one applauded but me. I no longer needed to be seen to know I had worth. I moved into a simple townhouse on the edge of the city. Not flashy, just peaceful. A place filled with things that reflected me, not the version of me someone else curated. I hung photos of my journey on the wall: my first pitch meeting, our team's launch day, the day I received my certificate of incorporation. Every frame reminded me I didn't just survive, I rebuilt. And in the quiet, I started reconnecting with myself. I started journaling, running, even traveling a little. Places I used to dream about when I was scrubbing counters at midnight, I was finally seeing them with my own eyes. Not because someone believed in me, but because I did. People often ask if I've forgiven her. Truth is, forgiveness isn't a moment, it's a process. Some days I look back and feel indifferent. Other days, I remember that laugh, the way she dismissed my dreams with a smirk, and I feel something stir. But what I've learned is this: healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning how to live without needing answers from people who never intended to give you any. She reached out once, a long email filled with regret, soft apologies, and lines like I didn't realize what I had. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but because I no longer needed her recognition to validate my growth. I had already moved forward. She was part of my past, but she didn't own my story anymore. I did. And now, my days are full. Not just with work, but with purpose. I mentor young entrepreneurs who remind me of myself: hungry, scared, underestimated. I tell them, don't chase revenge. Build success so loud they'll hear it without you ever saying a word. I say it because I lived it. Every lie, every sleepless night, every quiet moment of doubt, it led me here. To peace, to power, to a life that no longer needs to be proven, only lived. Looking back, I used to think betrayal was the worst thing that could happen to a person. That having someone you love lie to your face, plot behind your back, and try to profit off your future was the ultimate wound. But now I realize it wasn't the betrayal that defined me. It was how I responded to it. Pain will visit all of us, so will disappointment, injustice, and heartbreak. The question isn't whether life will knock you down. It's whether you'll get back up with your hands clenched for revenge or open for rebuilding. I chose to rebuild. Because I learned something in the rubble of that marriage. In the echo of that laughter that once humiliated me. Real strength doesn't shout, it endures. It's quiet, patient, strategic. It wakes up at 5 a.m. and grinds while no one's watching. It teaches you to stop begging people to believe in you and start building the life they said you'd never have. Brick by Brick. My story isn't about revenge, it's about resilience. It's about the power of keeping your dignity when someone tries to destroy your name. It's about staying calm when everything in you wants to scream. It's about showing up every single day for yourself, when no one else will. And most of all, it's about knowing your worth. Not because someone validates you, but because you've been to hell, and you came back unburned. So to anyone out there feeling betrayed, mocked, dismissed, remember this. Their laughter is not the end of your story, it's just the start of your rise. Let them laugh. You build, because one day, they'll sit in silence while your success speaks for itself.